Hello everybody, Skyrain here, back again with another Diablo Immortal video. This one, as you can already see on screen, I forgot to pause that for a second, but hang on. Yeah, we are at the Tristram Cathedral, and I wanted to go over a bit of lore and possibly some speculation. Let me know what you think about it, and piecing the puzzles together. This is mostly pertaining to the Bride of Hell. The only reason I wanted to do this recently anyway, I'm kind of wanting to do this for a while. If you guys want any more like in-depth lore from my past experience with the Diablo franchise, because I've been playing since the very first one, let me know and I'll try to put some things together. If you haven't been able to put some of the pieces together, perhaps my audio commentary and visuals, what have you, might help with some of these things, because I know some people might be new to the franchise, especially since it's on mobile with Diablo Immortal, and they might not know the backstory up to this point. So Diablo Immortal takes place, let's just go over this real quick, between Diablo 2 and Diablo 3. There's a 20-year gap between the two, so they have enough to work with to keep this going for a while. We've only progressed, I think, maybe like 2 years so far into that 20-year gap. Which kind of brings me to this point. I did see in one of the official Diablo Immortal Discord, under the lore section, I was seeing some things recently, very recently, which is why I'm doing this. It kind of threw me off a little bit. Some people were speculating like, oh, the Bride of Hell, which I'll go ahead and bring them on the screen here. There you go. There's the Bride of Hell. You'll see another image here shortly in the starting intro for the Tristram Cathedral dungeon in a second. Some are speculating, and if you don't already know this part of the story yet, spoilers, I guess, for Diablo Immortal anyway. This was not the last patch storyline. That was about Eldruin and Tyrell's sword. Which I have that entire playthrough with no commentary on video. If you guys want to see that, let me know. I can just post it up on the channel and you can have at it. I didn't skip anything. I let everything play out, all the stuff, even like little notes you find in the ground. You can scroll through. You can pause it when I bring those up, because I did kind of read through those a little quick. But as far as all the other dialogue, voiceovers and such in the game, I let that play out. So I got a full, it's like an hour long. But if you wanted to see that, let me know. But anyway, back to this. The Bride of Hell. Some people in the Diablo Immortal, official Diablo Immortal Discord, were bringing up like, oh, it's King Leoric's wife. And I was like, there's no way. And then some of those shot that down already too. But I'm trying to, figure out why there's a little bit of confusion and why they're, speculating certain ones over others. In this case, Leoric's wife, I don't think it is. She was beheaded by Leoric when he went mad from a failed Diablo possession on him. And she was beheaded. So she was a ghost. You find her in Diablo 3, actually. So I don't know if they are kind of excluding that because, it's in the future technically or not. But you find her ghost and whatever, and there's some interactions of what happened in that, and that's how you get that story. But again, I don't think that's the case. And then, let's see, what I think who it is. Now, it could possibly be another, but I'm leaning more towards this one, Adria the Witch. This is who I think the Bride of Hell is going to be in this one, and for good reason. At the end of, the first Diablo game, she spent many a nights with Aiden, who was King Leoric's eldest son, who ended up having to take down the incarnation of Diablo that had possessed Albrecht, his younger brother. And in doing so, taking down that Diablo manifestation, the body that was like a shell surrounding Albrecht crumbled. And at the end, you see Albrecht's soon-to-be lifeless body with a hole in his skull from where the soulstone shard was embedded into it so that Diablo can fully possess him. And there's been no other cases of this since. He was the only one to have reverted back to human form. All the other ones that came later of Diablo's incarnations, they didn't have that happen. So for whatever reason, Albrecht was the first and only one to revert back to child form and give out his last breath, unfortunately, and he died there. And then Aiden took that same soul stone shard and put it into his skull and became the Dark Wanderer that was in Diablo 2, which ultimately lost his fight against Diablo in his new possession of a better vessel. So yeah, the whole family of the Leorics is tragic. The whole family got screwed in the worst possible ways. Now, this brings me back to the Bride of Hell, Adria the Witch kind of connection here. At the end of the first game, Diablo, Adria consoled, so to speak, the Aiden who had the soul stone fresh in his forehead after doing all this. And of course they spent a couple nights, well, more than a couple nights, doing some things, and Adria immediately already recognized who was behind the eyes, and it was Diablo. And he had started, you know, whispering things to her, and showing her images, like in her dreams, nightmares possibly too, of like the end of days kind of scenarios. And he said, serve me and I'll make sure that you're fine, because this is going to happen, but help me make, basically she helped him along the entire way for like 20 plus years. So getting to this point with Aiden and them, coupled and whatever, she ends up becoming pregnant with who we know as Leah in Diablo 3. Given that there's a 20-year gap in between Diablo 2 and Diablo 3, it is highly likely to me, and that's why I'm making this connection of Adria the Witch and Bride of Hell. In this case, she already had Leah, and I was reading some through the fandom wikis and such. She sent Leah off with Jillian from the first Diablo game, and so that there wouldn't be anything. She still cared for the child to a degree, but not so much as a full mother would, because she knew that was literally Diablo's vessel. Think of it as another Horcrux from like Voldemort in the Harry Potter series. This is what Diablo does. He gives himself a lot of extra outs, and he plants things here as backup. He's pretty crafty that way. So yeah, I'm pretty certain this is the Bride of Hell is Adria. However, she does make mention, there was a line that somebody also mentioned in the Discord, saying that she's like, what would Mother think of me if she could see me now, or something to that extent. I am not entirely sure where they might be going with that, and then that's why some people think, oh, this is an entirely new character, and what have you. Now, the only other possible thing that this Bride of Hell could be considered maybe would be Magda in Diablo 3, which was the leader of the cult as well. But that's where Adria went and first crossed paths with Magda. They kind of had a bond between the two of them, and then they wanted to bring the cult to a new heights, but then Adria eventually just said, you know what, I'm good with this. And then this was in her younger years, and then she actually went to Tristram. She met Magda before all this, did stuff with the cult then, and then turned it up and amped it up a notch with the cult, and then she left. And then she went to Tristram to basically just kind of bide her time and hide out, or whatever. But that's a whole nother side shoot. But I still think, again, this is Adria the Witch. We'll go ahead and play the intro to, what's it called? The Tristram Cathedral. Let me get these off the screen here. Boop, boop. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and play the intro to the Tristram Cathedral here. And I'm just going to go ahead and enter. Wait a minute. I already seen the intro. It won't play for me again. I do have it recorded. Hang on. I'll bring that up here. Okay, good.
They thought to chain the Lord of Terror here. He is what makes Tristram sacred. Where Albrecht, Leoric's youngest son, was shown rebirth. Where Aidan, Leoric's eldest, put his father's corpse to rest again. A family lost in the dark. No. It welcomed them, as it will welcome us.
Okay. There we go. Alright, so that is that. Oh, wait a minute. I still got that on screen. Hang on a minute. So that was the intro. In that, you got to see the beheaded mother in the arms of Aidan. And then he took retribution against his father, and they showed him decapitating the now Skeleton King at that point. And that's why they say laid him to rest, slain him again, because Leoric just constantly keeps coming back over and over and over again. With that curse, there's got to be some way to lift that eventually, but he's stuck in this perpetual forever torment, and of course that's just for bringing it back into the franchise over and over again. That's their loophole there, I guess, with that one. Because it seems like he can come back way easier than all the primevals, which is pretty messed up in a sense. But yeah, anyway, back to, Aidan, or no, Bride of Hell, and Adria the Witch connection. That sounded a lot like her, to be honest, whoever they got doing the voice acting. And then the way she just described the whole scenario. Now, the whole point of them going to the Tristram Cathedral was they had to, well, multiple things. They had a World Stone shard. It was tainted by Baal. They traveled around trying to find where they could cleanse it because Diablo wasn't able to. This is after we had defeated Skarn. Skarn was the main antagonist, antagonist in this game. After defeating him, he was actually siphoning off of Diablo from his spirit essence this entire time from the first game. So he was actually just siphoning off of it. He was supposed to be like a herald of Diablo, but he basically, as most of them do, wanted all the power for himself. So when we went and defeated Skarn in the story of this game, that pretty much broke the shackles free on Diablo, and then he's been slowly resurrecting himself now that he finally can, because at that point he was actually shackled and unable to, because Skarn actually had him locked down, which is very interesting. But then also that kind of that same scenario happened a little bit with Diablo 4 with Lilith and Mephisto, if you don't already know that. But anyway, so yeah, Diablo's slowly trying to resurrect himself. They're trying to expedite the process with getting a World Stone shard to him, because they've all been corrupted and tainted, and they've always been using the Soul Stones throughout this entire series. It was a trick that the angels got duped into believing that they were containing them, when all they were doing was giving them stronger vessels, and it enhances their powers. So they had to go and cleanse it, because Baal, he tainted the whole entire World Stone, which is why Tyrael went and destroyed it, the massive World Stone, into these shards. And then in the course of Diablo Immortal, we go and collect them all and start, breaking them down one by one. But in the process, our soul has been corrupted along the way, but that was the risk we knew we were taking, yada yada yada. That's the most recent story. But I know this is a lot to go around with, and I was trying to keep this somewhat short, but this is just too much to leave out. So yeah, the story behind the cult in the game. Actually, let me just go ahead and pop Adria off for a second here. Boom. Okay, so the story of the cult and the Bride of Hell. Like I said, they went around, they had a shard, they had to get it cleansed because they had Baal's taint still on it. So, and Diablo couldn't, whatever. And in the process, when they first tried to give it to Diablo, they were already at, that was the damnation zone, which is where Scorn's throne and where Diablo, Scorn's former throne and where Diablo is resurrecting himself. They got pushed out because of the mostly because of the failed attempt at the stone there. So then they had to leave, and then they lost their connection to that portal. So, and they went to cleanse the stone. They went to Storm Point, set up shop there, started doing a bunch of rituals with a bunch of bodies and stuff, which is why you'll run around and see statues of corpses. That was the cult doing this stuff. Their effigies and whatnot. So they went there to try and cleanse it. They succeeded in taking over the area for a time, and then they got some of the information that they needed, which in turn led them to the Ancient's Cradle. And of course, we as the player, we helped push back on Storm Point and kind of turn things around. That was another story, but we pushed that back, and then they made their way to the Ancient's Cradle because that's where they heard about their ways of cleansing and such over there. So they went there to the, long story short in this one, the Ancient's Cradle is where they went. They cleansed the stone. So then they're like, okay, now we got to make a portal back to Diablo somehow. How are we going to do this? And they're like, oh, the most imprinted connection that we can make is going to be at the Tristram Cathedral. Who else better other than Albrecht, the young boy that was the first possession of Diablo in this series anyway. His corpse, which I'm like, oh, somehow his corpse was preserved, or maybe not so much. I don't know what state it was in when they found it, because this is like 6 years after. So by then you'd think it would have already been decayed, but whatever reason, maybe because he was possessed by Diablo, it left some kind of imprint on him to where, you know, it wasn't quite that far gone, or maybe it was, I don't know. Either way, what they end up using is that shard, and then they start testing it on townsfolk. They tested on Albrecht was the first one, and that's why, let me get to the video again here, bring it up. There we go, that's a good image. Here, we'll go to the video again. Boop. And I gotta get her out of the way. I'll bright the hell out of the way. Now, that says Albrecht, the first Shardborn, which indeed he was. That was the first one they tried using the purified shard now on. And this is when everything branches off from here on out to all the Shardborns that we see in the Dreadlands, etc., and the Shard Storm, and that kind of thing. That all branched out from this pretty rapidly. So then that's why I think there's been a couple years for this to transpire. But Albrecht is named the first Shardborn. He's this big amalgamation, turned into a raging monster. They had no control over it. It had like all the past memories, of course, in the process of doing so. I don't think this is Albrecht, that his soul's gone elsewhere and this is just his husk, but it still retains all the past memories and whatever else in this shard by it being used on him. So this is what they could not control. So they're like, well, we got to find some way of getting this thing brought to heal. Let's just kind of figure something out. So then they also went and resurrected the original Butcher from the first Diablo game, which is what we fight as a mini boss in this dungeon. So he makes a cameo appearance basically because they used it on multiple things. Even town villagers, etc. They were just testing it out, trying to figure out something. So eventually you have to go, we as the player heroes have to go to the cathedral. We go through the whole story. We take down Albrecht again in this state, and then as we left, for whatever, we just up and leave, like, okay, we dealt with a threat, let's move on. The cult was lying in wait and like, oh, perfect. As this new amalgamation monster of Albrecht is dying again, I guess, in this current state, they went and used the shard one more time and were able to pull out the memories and the psyche of Albrecht back to where the most strongest imprint on him from Diablo was, which is when he got possessed by Diablo. They used that to make a portal to Diablo through what is called the Path of Memories. And then we eventually, we see that's going down, we follow through that, but then we get pushed out by the Bride of Hell and also Diablo, who tried to trap us in there, but we managed to escape. Whew. All right, if you're following along, cool. If not, I'm sorry. Run it back, play it a few times until it sets in. This is a lot. I'm just going over this like off the cuff here, but there's a lot to cover here. And especially when all I was just trying to do was make the connection here at the very beginning of, I think that the Bride of Hell is Adria. I'll bring it back up again. This is like, you know, too long didn't watch, too long didn't read, whatever you want to call it. But this is what I think anyway for that and all these things in connection. Again, she would have already had Leah. Leah's off with Jillian somewhere else and protected from wards that Adria put on before she left. Again, she really didn't care about Leah ultimately because she knew it was just Diablo's vessel, or going to be, at the end of this long plan, which took, you know, 20 plus years to do for Diablo 3 once we get to that point. But this is, you know, a 20-year younger anyway Adria from Diablo 3, after, you know, she was not pregnant, of course, or, you know, but I think just the tagline Bride of Hell almost gives it away to a sense, but at the same time, if she makes reference to some mother figure, I'm not entirely sure who that might be. If in fact maybe it could be Magda, I'm not entirely sure. Or this isn't some entire other character introduced to the series. But I don't know. With the tagline is Bride of Hell, I'm thinking she's literally, you know, Adria because of, you know, what she did with Aiden, the possessed by Diablo, getting pregnant with that new vessel, etc., etc. But all right, there you go. If you'd like to know anything more on any kind of lore, let me know in the comments down below. This is what I just kind of put together, like I said, off the cuff here. There's a lot of, I know I probably went around in a lot of circles here. Watch it back if you want a few times if it's still confusing to you. I hope this makes sense. I'm not sure, you know, I'm not 100% on this. This is purely my speculation on this too, from like past game knowledge of the series and the lore behind it all, and what I've played through myself along the way. So again, yeah, let me know what you think. If you think it's Adria the Witch, or somebody else entirely, and who else would it be? Like I said, it could be Magda. I definitely do not, however, think that it is King Leoric's wife. That just, I mean, that would really, really screw the family over even more as a whole for the Leorics. But yeah, I don't know. I'm still pretty set on it being Adria. I'll be happily surprised, however, if they do take an entirely different direction. But honestly, this would probably make the most sense and be the best pick if they really wanted to keep everything, you know, tied together in a nice bow. Because honestly, so far with what we've experienced in Diablo Immortal, as much people might write it off as, oh, it's not canon, it's not this and that, whatever else, I don't know. It's been done pretty well up to this point. To be completely honest, they actually did a very good job, and I think that has a lot to do with the Blizzard lore cinematic or lore franchise part of their teams. Their lore teams have always been, like I said before, stellar. So I think they had actually this part they might have had the biggest influence on the development of the game. It's the actual, you know, dev design is what NetEase is doing, but I think in this particular case, since it's Blizzard's IP, I think they have the most influence over things like this. But anyway, I'm rambling now even more so than I already was up to this point. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you made it through all the way to the end, more power to you. I appreciate you as always for watching, and I also appreciate you hearing me out in what I was able to put together here in this lore video, which is obviously long. So thank you again for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Until next time, everybody, you stay safe out there in the world on fire. See ya.